good afternoon, everybody. My name is Craig Filer. I'm the director of the Office of National Fellowships here at Florida State University. And today we're going to take a quick overview of fellowships that are particularly designed for our American students to do graduate study in the UK and Ireland. And so what we're going to do today is just go through the 4-5 programs that we have listed here. And in each of the programs, we're going to talk a little bit about the objective behind each of the 5 programs, the eligibility, the benefits, the application materials, and the web page information. I will let you know right out of the gate that all 5 of these are going to be incredibly similar. They all are trying to get us to find the best and brightest students to go to the UK for graduate school. The timelines for the awards are going to be all very similar. The difference is going to be in the details, as it were. And so while I'm going to give this to you almost as information through a fire hose, please know that for everyone that's here today and for everyone that has registered, we're going to send this PowerPoint out when we are done. We will also post it to our YouTube page so that you can actually go back and study and follow in the nuances a little bit. And today we're just going for the broad strokes. So if a lot of the specifics don't stick in terms of how many letters for this versus that, or what is this essay versus that essay, don't worry about that so much, because as you'll see in the timelines, for all of these, we have plenty of time to talk about the nuances and the details between them. So I'm going to go through all 5 in turn, and then we'll save questions right to the very end. We're having some issues with the sound, and so we'll do those in the chat box when it's time. So everyone buckle your seatbelts, as it were, and we'll go through the 5 of these one at a time. Now, as I mentioned, there are some commonalities between these, and let's start with that because it'll save me from saying the 5 things, saying each of these things 5 times over. So eligibility for these, you have to be a graduating senior, and that means a rising graduating senior at the very least. The majority of these applications, the work is done over the course of the summer with a very early fall semester deadline for students to start in the UK the following year. So it's almost an 18-month process. So if you are a rising senior, you're finishing up your 3rd year here at the university, this is the year that you would first be eligible for one of these programs. You would submit the application early in fall, and this year would be fall 2022, so that you could start a graduate program in fall 2023. You can also already have a degree from Florida State. That is perfectly fine. There's different caps on the eligibility window, but if you graduate this year, you are also eligible to apply for Rhodes. If you're graduating in a couple of months, you can apply for all of these as well. Each of these will be 1 to 2 years spent in graduate study at the UK or Ireland. They need 3 to 8 letters of recommendation. That's right, 8. One of them actually requires 8 letters of recommendation, depending on the award. So 3 to 8. They all require a university endorsement of some form. In other words, you need to work with our office. They're in many cases an interview process. And in some of the cases, you actually have to be selected among the interviewees to be nominated by the university. All of them have essay materials that are required of you that touch on your academics, your scholarship, your research, as well as leadership and service in the community. And they're all looking for combinations of the following characteristics. They want strong intellect. They want you to have a strong character, leadership, morality. They want you to have a seriousness of purpose. They want you to have motivation. And then you can see here, this key one, they want you to have this potential to make a significant societal contribution. One of the things people often come to the table with these types of awards is they feel like they need to, oh, I need to be president or one day to be eligible for this, or I'm going to cure cancer one day to be eligible for this. And hey, if you're in political science and your goal is to become president, that is awesome. Or if you are working in STEM in an oncology lab and you want to cure cancer and that's your significant social contribution, also perfect. But that's not going to be everyone's story. And so really, these applications are meant to help you figure out where your significant societal contribution was going to be, whether it's in science, politics, the arts, the humanities, wherever it happens to be. That's the case we will make. And it is our job in the fellowships office to make sure you're not, in a sense, comparing apples and oranges and thinking that you have to be an orange, whereas they want every fruit in the basket represented at the table, as it were. A really strange metaphor there. A few other commonalities before we dive into the specific awards. They want to enable intellectually distinguished Americans to study in the UK and Ireland. These awards have been around in some cases over 100 years with Rhodes, but at least for the past 40 or 50 years, post-World War II with some of these, because they want to encourage strong ambassadorial connections using you all as students, as grassroots ambassadors in various ways, shapes, and forms for the US that will then bring aspects of living in the UK or in Ireland back to our country as well. You all become just some of the best ambassadors we have, taking your ideas and your energy overseas and then bringing new ideas and new energy back from your time abroad. They want you to improve the world by advancing knowledge. And again, this is in your specific field and they are open to all fields. And so they like that diversity of discipline, diversity of interest. This again, as I mentioned, strengthens international relations, and we want you to promote your own personal and academic fulfillment through your leadership and through your involvement in the community. All right, so that being said, I'm gonna drink a little water. Let's jump in. So the Marshall Scholarship, this is the first of 5. The Marshall Scholarship, and what I'll do is I'll sort of highlight the main things about each one as we go through. With the Marshall, you can study in almost any UK higher education institution for a 1 or a 2-year master's degree program. The funding for all of these pretty much covers everything. It covers travel here as well. And then with all of these, you have a great alumni network as part of it too. The applications are all going to be very similar. Like I said, you're always going to need an official transcript. Marshall needs 4 letters of recommendation and it has 3 essays. Actually, this is outdated. There's now 4 essays. So there's personal statement. I missed something. That's okay. There's a personal statement. There's a proposed program essay. There's a why the UK essay. And there's also a leadership essay now as well. So I'll make sure to get that updated before we post it online. You have to be a US citizen, as I said. You have to be a graduating senior. This one has a 3.7 GPA, bare minimum to be eligible. And then you cannot have studied for or hold a degree from a British university. And that's going to be pretty standard across these. One of the first questions I always get is, well, I did study abroad in London. That's fine. You can do international experiences overseas in London for all of these. Those do not count against you when they're looking at this requirement of no degrees from British universities. They basically are just saying your bachelor's degree needs to be from an accredited US institution, but if you did study abroad, excellent. There's no expectation that you have studied or lived in England, but there's also not a penalty if you have in most cases. As I mentioned before, these deadlines are all pretty similar. So with this one, I can show you there's something we call a pre-application, and that is an internal application. Several of these awards, we use this. It's something that we do through our SurveyMonkey site. And so the pre-application for this one, it's just basically for me to get to know you, who you are, why you're interested in the award, what it is you're interested in studying in the UK, and then how the Marshall Scholarship fits into that plan. The campus deadline will be in mid-August. It's usually the week before classes start. It's then followed by an interview process. The committee for Marshall will select nominees from the university towards a national deadline, which is usually the end of September, around the 29th or 30th. If you want to learn more about this one, as with all of these, the best place to start is on their website, and here it's marshallscholarship.org. Okay, that's the first one. One down, 4 to go. So Rhodes Scholarship, this is the oldest. And this is very specifically to study at the University of Oxford. It's for 2 years. Again, the financials will cover everything. With the application, you need a transcript, of course. This is the one that can be up to 8 letters of recommendation. Here, I like to draw the distinction in that 5 to 8, and this is one we would work out ourselves in our meetings. But you would have a limit of 4 academic references and then 4 character references, and we would talk about the difference between those and who you would want to have serve as an academic reference versus who you would want to have serve as a character reference. Generally speaking, academic references, if you're unfamiliar, would come from professors or people that you have served in a lab or in some research capacity, whereas character references would be people who have either supervised you at work, in an internship, have worked with you in a mentoring capacity, or in some facility outside of the classroom. You have to also write a proposed course of study essay, very similar to the one in Marshall, where you talk about the master's program you would want to undertake. Here you take a personal statement and also a list of principal activities. The interesting thing about Rhodes, as opposed to the others that we work with, and there's one other that falls in this category, is Rhodes has a very intentional hands-off policy when it comes to your writing. The Rhodes Scholarship requires that when you do your personal statement, you receive no outside help whatsoever. That means we cannot help workshop the essays, which we will do on the others, and I'll talk about that a little towards the end, but also means your roommates, your parents, former teachers. No one is allowed to read and provide feedback on your essays, and you have to sign a document in the application that basically attests to the fact that you've received no help. We will certainly help you and talk about what constitutes a strong personal statement, how to construct a really strong one, but then we cannot give you direct feedback on your writing itself. They did this as a way to create equanimity about, it's about 6 or 7 years ago now. And it's a thing that we take very seriously because they take very seriously. And then you also do a list of principal activities, which is their version of a resume. And this is the statement I mentioned before here. I won't read it because it's time to lose my voice, but you can see it. I'll leave this here for 1 sec. Demonstrates their seriousness towards this idea of no help on the writing. And then again, eligibility. Here's US citizen. You can be no older than 24 with this one at the time of the application. And so here it's October 5th, you can see in 2022. They want that extraordinary intellectual distinction. And again, that 4-year college or university at the time of the scholarship. That just means, again, you can apply in the fall of your senior year for the first time. And again, the pre-application, similar to the Marshall, this one's going to be in early July. Campus deadline will be the same day in mid-August. We'll have that set sometime probably by the end of March, beginning of April. And the national deadline here is October 5th. Deep breath, everyone. Third one, George Mitchell. So this is the one that is specifically to study in Ireland or Northern Ireland for 1 year and 1 year only of a master's degree. But again, all expenses including tuition, travel, all those sorts of things. Here you need 5 letters of recommendation. There's a personal essay, official transcripts. This one also has a video component because I like to see and get to know you. And so that's a little distinction on the Mitchell Scholarship. But you can see here, the eligibilities all look very similar. Here you can be up to 30 years old to apply. And then again, the 4-year degree and the intellectual distinction they're looking for here. It's different with Mitchell and Rhodes. You can see there's not a specific GPA. Even though we usually follow the Marshall guideline of around 3.7 is what's competitive, even though they don't have a standard eligibility GPA. Same deadlines here, at least the same scope of them, even though here September 3rd, 2020, that's a misprint, but September 30th is what we're looking at here. Okay, so Marshall, just to recap halfway through, Marshall can be 1 or 2 years at almost any UK institution. Rhodes, that's for 2 years at Oxford specifically. Mitchell is for 1 year at one of the Irish or Northern Irish universities. Then we have Gates Cambridge, which is very specific to the University of Cambridge. So Rhodes is for Oxford. Gates Cambridge through the Gates Foundation is very specifically at the University of Cambridge. Again, pretty much all expenses covered. Here are the application components. The big difference here is for Rhodes, for Marshall, for Mitchell, and for the final one we'll show you in a second, Fulbright, all of those you apply to the program. You apply to Rhodes, you apply to Marshall, you apply to Mitchell, you apply to Fulbright. Gates Cambridge, it inverts that. You apply to Cambridge, and as part of the Cambridge application, you apply to the Gates Cambridge by providing a different essay. With Rhodes, with Marshall, with Mitchell, if you are awarded the scholarship, they help get you into one of the programs you discuss. With Fulbright, you apply to Fulbright, which we'll talk about in a second, and then you apply to the program. With Gates Cambridge, you apply to the school, and then as part of that application, you apply to the Gates Cambridge program. I think you can see now how I'm saying, like, they're all the same scope, but the nuances are so incredibly different. And again, please remember, that's why we're here. I can do this stuff in my sleep. I'm here to answer these questions. You don't have to remember all of these minutiae, particularly this early on. We can just talk about the big scope things and get you focused on your story and why this would be a good fit for you, whichever scholarship it is. Same thing here, Gates Cambridge, you need to be a US citizen, or in this case, any citizen outside of the UK, high GPA, and of course, admitted to Cambridge. Here it's going to be based on Cambridge deadline, and this is usually early October, mid-October as well. And then finally, we have the Fulbright program. So the Fulbright has a lot of opportunities in many, many countries. We also have some workshops on our website about the larger Fulbright program, which will allow you to go to do study or teach English or do an artistic project or do research in one of about, oh goodness, it's over 50 countries. It's been ebbing and flowing because of COVID, but there's a lot of countries you can go to. Here we're just talking about what's in the UK. In the UK, for the most part, it is for 1 year of graduate study. That you can see here, there's 46 awards that they call partnership awards, where you can go to an individual institution. And so very similar to the Marshall Scholarship in that you have a large number of schools to choose from. But here it's for 1 year and 1 year only on the Fulbright. And again, you can see here, the benefits are very similar to the other ones. With a Fulbright, you again need the official transcript. Here it's 3 letters and 2 essays, a statement of grant purpose for this case, which is the project of the degree. What is the degree you're going to study and the classes, that sort of thing, as well as a personal statement. Same eligibility. Here the big difference is because it's for a master's degree, they're really not wanting you to hold a PhD. They don't want you to have more education than the education they would be providing for you. But again, you can have a master's degree already. That's perfectly fine. You can be studying for a master's degree here in another subject and want to do a master's in the UK. That's great. Or again, have that bachelor's degree by the time your master's program started. These we've already got up and running in terms of our pre-application. It's already available, and that will be on June 1st is when it's due. The campus deadline for the Fulbright Awards is going to be the August 25th date, and our national deadline this year is on October 3rd. Quick reminder here, application guidelines for Rhodes, Marshall, Mitchell, and Fulbright. You must apply for FSU. You must work with our office. There's no way around it. There's no in round. People have tried, and it's because there's a university nominating and or selection process that we must do. And so you must work with the nominating officials. Me, also Keith's one of the Fulbright folks here on the call with us, or with somebody else in our office, which you'll see the whole list here in a second. And we have these application instructions, deadlines, information available upon request. It's all, of course, in the PowerPoint as well. So here's what we do in the office if you're unfamiliar. So in the Office of National Fellowships, application management, that is what I was saying before. I am here to help you keep track of all these moving parts, particularly if you choose to, like one of these is a lot. I have students every year that apply to 2 or 3 of these, and keeping all of the distinctions and the differences separate can be really challenging and overwhelming. That's what we're here to do to help you with that. Reference selection, as I mentioned before, talked about the people that can do recommendations for you and who that would be the best suited, who's going to be a strong academic reference, who's going to be a strong character reference for you. Resources, writing guides, sample essays. We have sample essays that we can show you as you're trying to learn how to construct a really strong personal statement. What constitutes a good personal statement for Fulbright might be a little different than what constitutes one for Rhodes. They're going to be similar DNA, much like they are in this presentation, but still looking for things that are a little bit different. Our favorite, essay critiquing, I would actually call it workshopping, although there is a lot of critique involved. Most of you do not know how to write about yourselves. I can say that with authority because I've been doing this for about 12 years, 13 years now. What we're able to do is take the raw clay you bring to us and help you workshop so that you can learn to write impactfully, effectively, succinctly, and powerfully about yourself. Most students I've discovered are used to writing with the overexpansive limitation of space. I did this as an undergrad as well. Oh my goodness, I've got to write a 10-page paper. I only have 6 pages worth of stuff to say. So I know how to spin language to fill up the space. Use so many adverbs. Here, you're going to have a page and you're used to using so many words to fill that space. You're going to hit that wall pretty quickly. What we will do when we workshop this is not only talk to you about the content and sort of what you want to include and how you want to include it to make an authentic and impactful personal statement. We'll also talk to you about the art of writing itself and about concision and how you use less words to say more, how you take the language that you use, distill it down to its most active and impactful form, which is hopefully going to be a really useful skill as you move on to other applications or just life in general. And then, believe it or not, there are questions I still get asked that I honestly don't have an answer to. But the good news is, with each of these programs, we have a colleague that works at the foundations that doesn't work on the selection process. They're there just to administer. Those folks help us when we don't know how to help a student, and they become invaluable resources so that we can connect you or we can connect with the folks at the foundation to answer questions you may have that we may not have the experience or the knowledge to answer. All right, Now, that being said, before I open up to questions, just a few additional things to show you here. You can see I mentioned the importance of the personal statement, and we actually have a workshop that we're doing in April on this one. This one will be at 4:30, also on Zoom. And so if you're interested in attending that, the link is available on our website, and we can also send it out to you if you want to connect with me. And then if the Fulbright beyond the UK is interesting to you, if you'd like to consider the idea of maybe studying Italy or Brazil or everywhere except Russia right now, of course, that would not happen. Then we have 2 more of those coming up. You can see one in March next week. It's already March. So yeah, one next week on March 9th, and then one early in April on April 14th. And those registration links are also on our website. Now, the thing that I find so satisfying about students applying for these awards to the UK is not the fact that they're competitive, which they are. The percentage of students that receive the awards that apply is very low. And we just like to be sort of matter of fact about that up front. But we take a sort of bifurcated approach to this. Is one, this idea that yes, they're competitive, and the likelihood that you receive it is very low. However, someone's got to get it, and it very well could be you. So I call it grounded aspirationalism, right? This idea that we're going to keep your feet on the ground, but we're going to stretch because you got to have the vision for yourself. Like I can see myself as a Fulbright scholar. I can see myself as a Rhodes scholar, but we're going to keep your feet planted on the ground and also help remind you, like, this is competitive. It's very likely you will not win this, but somebody's going to. And so let's see if we can position you as well as possible for it to be you. That being said, the discovery process that students go through when they apply for one of these UK programs is phenomenal. Every year, students really dig in and learn about the programs that they find. They're like, I'm excited about this. I didn't know I could study this, or this program, this particular school in the UK is amazing. I want to go. And so what we also do is work on what do you do if you don't receive it, but you really want to go to the UK anyway. And this is sort of how we do that. We get you in touch with folks at the UK, at the specific institution. You would be an international student, so we see what funding does that particular school or that program have for students coming from the US. And we get you to talk to your folks here on campus, mentors you may have about the relevancy of a graduate degree abroad in a field. Aboard in a field. Keith, help me remember what that's horrible. Okay. So our contact information for folks here in the undergrad office, it's me, that's me. So if you want to get in touch with me, follow-up questions about this, set up a follow-up appointment, I'd be happy to talk to you. Just shoot me an email. Jesse's on there. I just saw a big typo. Bonnie's on there with Jesse's email address. This is good stuff, right? And then Christine, our grad assistant's on here as well. So we're all available to help you. And really the, back up here, what I would say is the sky's the limit. We really want you to come in and talk to us. Even if you're not sure if one of these programs is for you, the conversation is free and hopefully it's going to be impactful for you. And I'll be the first to admit, like, not everybody can make a strong case for why they'd be a good Rhodes Scholar, but having a conversation with us about the program can maybe help us then as professionals in the field be like, hey, you know what, this one might work, but a Marshall might be a better fit for you for what you're trying to do, or a Fulbright, or maybe something even completely far afield from the ones that we are talking about here today. So that being said, I'm going to find the thing here and see if I can move the camera. Well, I can, it's just going the wrong way. Okay, here I am. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to pull up the chat. See if Olivia has any questions. So Olivia, one person, you have any questions for us in the chat? So much to say. Or Keith, any questions?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, the sound's not working, Olivia. You'll have to. Sorry about that. And I'll also add, while she's typing that in, that's very good. So So I'll also add real quick that if you need any of this information, the best place to start in terms of contact or just the scholarships itself is to go to our website, which is onf.fsu.edu. Everything's there. You can register for the other upcoming workshops, all that sort of stuff. You should know where it is if you register for this one, or if you're watching this on YouTube. I think we know how to post that link in the comments below. I'm 51, so give me a break. So anyway, her question is, if I'm not in the eligibility window, when should you come in and start talking to us? And my answer to that is now, right? Because so often students will come in right when it's time to start, but they haven't really thought about how they engage on campus and in the community in a holistic way that the applications will really have you think about. And so the sooner you come in and have conversations about these awards, the sooner you can start really considering how all the pieces that are part of your life really work together to construct the narrative of why you would be an ideal candidate for a given award. Also, there may be other programs that we're aware of that you can apply to sooner in your third year, in your second year, what have you. And so while many of the awards we work with, and certainly the ones we talked about here today, are for students that are going into their senior year, the Office of National Fellowships works with programs that would be eligible, that students are eligible for starting from their very first year on campus. So my answer to that question is usually now or very shortly hereafter. So good question. All right. Keith, anything from the? Go. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon. And I'll let Keith stop the recording, and we'll have this all posted. Thanks, everybody.